Welcome to Austin Eras, the podcast that unravels Austin's transformation into a 21st century boomtown and explores its potential future. Brought to you by Collective Advisors, Austin Eras takes you on a journey through the city's evolving landscape and rich history, offering insights into its dynamic past, present, and future.
All right, welcome to the Austin Eras podcast. I'm your host, Adam Flagg, and I'm really excited to chat with Jeremiah Bentley today. Welcome to the show, Jeremiah.
Yeah, happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me. You know, usually when somebody calls me and asks me if I want to talk on a microphone, it's pretty much an instant yes, but I love the show and kind of what you're doing and the stories you're telling, so I'm happy to be a part of it and join on in.
Yeah, I definitely think you've got some friends and community members you know pretty well that have done the show so far. Kristen Markham, right? She was on, 5 or 6 episodes ago, so she was a great guest. Let's see if you can live up to it. I'm going to tell everyone your bio now and get everyone at launch. So Jeremiah Bentley is a longtime Austinite who first fell in love with the city during a 1991 track meet. We'll talk more about that later. He's now the Vice President of Marketing and Community Affairs at Texas Mutual Insurance, where he's been since 1998. You don't hear a lot of people at a job that long. We'll talk more about that as well. He oversees the company's marketing, public relations, advertising, community relations, digital media, and customer outreach efforts. His efforts in the Austin community are immense. He's the current chair of the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and has and is been a member of the board of directors with Leadership Austin, United Way for Greater Austin, the Austin Ed Fund, and the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of Austin in there. He's the co-host of the Moon Towers Soccer podcast, which you may already know him with. His co-host Landon Cotham and him do a great podcast about every other week.
Every week, 51 weeks a year. We take Christmas off.
A year.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You live in Northwest Austin with your wife Brandy, 2 boys, and you have a pandemic puppy I heard about.
We do. We actually have 2 pandemic puppies now. We like the first one so much, we decided to go for a second. So we have 2 corgis.
Okay. I got stuck with a pandemic guinea pig, so not quite the same experience, but I have 2 dogs as well. But you're a graduate of the University of Texas in Arlington with the BS in University Studies and with over 3 decades in Austin. Jeremiah brings a rare lens in civic engagement, corporate community building, soccer culture, and his personal rhythms of Austin life. So Jeremiah, welcome to the show. This is exciting. You've got a really interesting bio. You've had a really interesting life here in Austin, and we've known each other for, 6, 7, 8 years now, and you're everywhere. If I'm going out in Austin, you're one of those people that I'm going to see around town. I guess it's part of the job, but it's part of who you are and how passionate you are.
It is, and it's like I just love this city so much, and then we'll probably get into this when we talk about Austin FC, but like I moved here in 1992 to go to school and like fell in love with Austin, stuck around, and really feel like privileged to be able to have some part like moving this city I love forward and doing things, giving back and contributing. So that's sort of the base of all this stuff that I do out in the community.
I mean, Austin is an entirely different place than it was in 1992. I know you told me when we chatted earlier about your first experience was the year before, 1991, at a track meet in Austin?
Right. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Like, you came here, but where are you from originally?
So I'm originally from a little bitty town called Era, Texas. It's in North Texas. It's about 30 minutes outside of Denton. There were like 16 in my graduating class.
Okay.
So I was second in the class, but I wasn't in the top 10%, or half of me wasn't in the top 10% or whatever, you know. Some buddies of mine who were running at the state track meet, which is in Austin every year, were running, and so we decided to come down and support them. And there's like this big rain delay, and the meet's over, and it's like 1:30 in the morning, or like I think the meet ended at 1:30, and it was even later. And the 2 choices at that time to like find food are the IHOP, which they're still here, like the IHOP on Cesar Chavez,
sure,
right there, and then the Kirby Lane on Kirby Lane were like our only options. So we're like, okay, well I've been to IHOP, let's see what Kirby Lane's like. And so we went there. And there was like, our waiter had blue hair and like smelled like weed and disappeared for like half an hour in the middle of the meal. And it's the first time I'd ever had black beans, which I found to be very exotic, being a kid from rural Texas. And I was like, this is the place I want to move to. Yeah. Like, this is the experience I want. Like, when I was 16, I grew up on a farm, and my dad's like, you should move to a city. This is not the life for you. And so when I came to Austin right after that, I was like, yes. This is absolutely where I want to be.
So your dad is like, don't stay here. You need to get out. And a year later, you moved to Austin, Texas.
Yes.
So what was Austin like in 1992 in your world? What did it look like? What were the smells, the sights, the sounds?
I think one of the most important things is my first computer science class was 3 times the size of my hometown. So just the scale, even though Austin then is like way smaller than now, right? Yeah. But like the scale of Austin compared to my town was crazy. So I rather enjoyed Austin. I wasn't really good at like going to school. And one semester I got like the letter for the ex-students association before I got my grades, which I assumed meant that it was probably going to be a bad semester. And it was, but it was like, I think it was like 6th Street was in its heyday. That was like the place to go. Like there's a ton to do more to do in Austin now, but I feel like a lot of it's more dispersed. Like it was very geographically centered around downtown. Like that was the only place there was nightlife. It's like really the only place there were meals. There's a lot of that. It's a great kind of indie music, rock and roll scene.
Yeah.
Here then at places like Liberty Lunch and the Austin Music Hall and the Zona Rosa and stuff we used to go to a lot of. So it was a fun town, but it was super a college town too, right? Like that's why people came here, is because they grew up somewhere else in Texas, probably on a farm or wherever, came to Austin, fell in love with the city, stuck around, and now there's like a lot more, you get a lot of people from a lot of other places, and there's a lot more to do and see. So like I've loved a lot of the change. Obviously, it's never perfect.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot bigger, right? 1992 to today, we probably tripled in size, if not more, in that period of time. What has been I think the single greatest thing that you've seen that's happened to Austin because of the growth?
Food. So many more varieties of food, different types of food, different concepts.
Yeah.
It's not just whatever your favorite cafe was that you grew up around where you got the chicken fried steak that you loved. Like it's not just that now. There's so many different places that you can go and eat and do, and I'd never run out of opportunities to explore something new.
Yeah, my son's a big ice cream guy, and 16 years old. He wants to go out on the weekends. We went to Zed's Ice Cream in East Austin, which is a New Zealand style ice cream. Like you're not going to find that in many American cities.
No.
So you're right. Food is definitely it. So you get done with school, at least for the time being.
Right.
And you go work for a lobbyist for a couple years coming out of school.
Right.
What was that experience? Because that's obviously college town, governmental town. So you were involved in
both parts
relations.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a time when I assume that I'm happily not super involved in the political process now, but it was kind of like a golden era of bipartisanship. George Bush was a governor before he went to Washington. Bob Bullock was the lieutenant governor. He was a Democrat. They worked together on stuff. They were congenial. You could like Bush, would you go for a jog around Town Lake and he'd be there like jogging around Town Lake too. Like it was a laid back, probably in the same way that Austin's laid back, kind of bipartisan environment. So I enjoyed that experience, but it's just, politics is political, right? So it was also okay to transition out of that too at some point.
So you did that for a while, and your current CEO, Jeanette Ward, I want to bring her up because she's been at Texas Mutual since 1993. You've been there since 98. Both of you didn't exactly start like in some premium position. So I'm curious just about Texas Mutual, your experience there, as well as the culture of the business and what you guys do in Texas.
Yeah, both of us started as like administrative assistants, in me in government affairs, or public affairs, and her in the office of the president. Never the intention of like making a career out of it. Like she did study political science, so she had a degree in that. But there's no future underwriters of America. Nobody like grows up wanting to go into insurance. That was not my dream as a child, obviously. But I think, and the very first thing I ever worked on was in Texas Mutual was in '98. We like threw a conference together in San Antonio. There was like a National Trade Association conference, and it was a great experience. But like 23-year-old Jeremiah and 26-year-old Jeanette are like very different from 50-something Jeremiah and Jeanette today. But it's been great to grow, and I just feel like that just shows that it's a rare opportunity to have a company that like, if you can prove your value, they will invest in you and create opportunities and allow you to move through. And obviously there's like you have to show that like you have value and worth and like you're contributing to the organization, but it's always been like a real spirit of like development and generating leadership from within and stuff like that, which is why I've always appreciated, and it's why I've stuck around for so long.
And now being in kind of the marketing space and public relations, you have seen Texas Mutual grow dramatically in the time you've been there. They're the largest provider of workers' compensation insurance in the state. What does that growth look like at the level at your company?
So for the company, it's been a great ride. One of the things that has helped us throughout is that Texas is a great place to do business, and largely our success is based upon the success of the Texas economy. And we like to believe that we contribute to it through the ways that we do, through providing stable source of workers' compensation insurance, we pay about $350 million a year in dividends back to our policyholders on $1 billion in premium. All these investments across the community that are aligned with our goals. Like we like to think we have a part of that, but really there's no place to do business like doing business in Texas. The growth has been incredible, and sort of the appreciation that we can be a leader and that we should use our assets to like do good is something that our previous CEO, Rich Gergasco, when he came in like 2013, really invested in. He's like, we shouldn't be. We're real proud of being like the biggest insurance company nobody's ever heard of, and he's like, no, we shouldn't be that. Like we've got all these assets. We can do so much good if we like become more public and like build the brand and do more and than just like sell an insurance product. And that was really where it kind of took off in terms of like public perception and persona.
So tell me a little bit about like what your day-to-day job looks like, what you're out there doing for Texas Mutual, and what Texas Mutual is trying to do for the community.
For the community, we really look at what we do is sort of rooted in what we do as a company. And so workers' compensation insurance, it's a product we sell to businesses that if their employees get hurt on the job, we step in, take care of their medical, replace their wages if they have to miss time, which means our clients tend to be construction, manufacturing, oil and gas, transportation, riskier types of business. And so we root our community work in serving the needs of those businesses. So we do a lot of funding around workforce development, safety training, apprenticeships, community colleges, like things like that help create a more educated workforce. Believe a lot in disaster preparedness and response, which obviously is very relevant right now in Central Texas and will continue to be relevant, going forward. Believe in the importance of early childhood education. Like there's both in terms of like lots and lots of women particularly are not in the workforce because they can't find affordable quality childcare. And if you can find that, there's a lot of stats that show that, people, if a student's reading on grade level by the time they're in the third grade, they have the opportunity to compete and like raise money for their family and like create a different economic environment. And then if they're not, like it's likely they're going to be in the same cycle. So we do a lot of early childhood funding too to help bend that cycle for future generations of Texans because we're here for all of Texas.
So you're very proactive in the community, doing a lot. But I have the feeling, Jeremiah, that if you weren't at Texas Mutual and you were somewhere else, you'd still really be doing a lot in the community and doing a lot. Just that's your passion. What's a day look like for you? What kind of activities, what things are you out there doing, both representing yourself and Texas Mutual?
Well, no day is the same. I'm probably like a lot of people, right? No day is the same. So I do spend a lot of, because there's nothing like investing in people and time, and like that takes time. And I've always said that like we don't want to just write a check to any nonprofit. We want to really be a partner, and being a partner means like contributing my time or somebody on the team's time to be on the board, to be on a committee, because I'm a marketing guy, like review communications assets and things like that. So I spend a lot of time doing that kind of stuff. And then just like with everybody, there's like, I'm responsible for advertising and like revenue generation for $1 billion insurance company. So there's like a lot of meetings, and emails related to that stuff too, a lot of technology modernization, stuff like that, which is rewarding in its own way. But like the community work is definitely like the thing that sustains you and fills you up. Mm-hmm.
And I see you out, you're at different events, you're at City Hall, you're having meetings with different politicians, different community leaders. What's been an exciting story for you? What's been something that you've really enjoyed being a part of in that realm?
I think, well, the one that we have to talk about is bringing a soccer team to Austin.
Yeah. Let's go down the Austin FC path. Let's do that right now.
I think that's the number one thing because it's, I've like always been a sports guy, love the game of soccer. As I grow older and football games get longer, I appreciate the 2-hour time window of soccer more and more. Yeah. Especially with kids and they're busy and stuff. Like I appreciate that. And then like I talked about, like I just love Austin. So when there was this chance to bring our first professional sports team to town in a sport I love. There we go. Yeah. I just like jumped in and got super involved in the effort and through Kristen Markham doing all the communications PR efforts, like it made a lot of sense to do that. But from like the early supporters meetings to going to City Hall and testifying at 3:00 in the morning for the 60 seconds I had to talk about how it would be, different for this community, to getting to do this podcast, to going to the first game and seeing the stadium full. Cause like up until the June of 2021, like we didn't know if it was just like the 100 of us that were really excited about it that were going to show up, to see the whole city turn out. And then to see, I remember talking to Mayor Adler way back when we were looking at this about what this might be. And he talked about like a uniting force for the city from no matter what you do or what part of the city you're from or like your economic profile or whatever, like this is a thing that could rally the whole city together. And then to like go there and have these really good friends, like some of them, I don't know what their job is. Like it doesn't matter, right? Like all united around soccer. And I've got plenty of really good friends I would never have met if not for the Austin FC experience. That's been the most rewarding overall.
We were talking prior to this, just going around, you take a lap around the stadium, you run into people. It's a fun place. And I always run into people I'd have no idea that would be there. So there's always a surprise. I read before this podcast, I knew quite a bit about Austin FC. I wanted to get myself a little bit more familiar. 2018 was the year I think it was approved by the city council to come over. Columbus was going to move their entire franchise. It turned out someone else bought out Columbus, and this became an expansion team. So we get it in 2021. We're on our 5th year now in 2025. And Austin FC is, how big is Q2 Stadium?
Is 20,738 seats. They've sold every seat for every game. So it's the longest. Is everybody there every game? Probably not. But it's like the longest sellout streak in the league.
So that's incredible. So Austin actually was the largest city to not have a Major League Soccer team when it came in. So we're overdue. I'd make the argument we're overdue for other professional sports as well. But tell me a little bit about where your passion for soccer came from. Because for me, growing up in the 90s, I got to play soccer in 3rd and 4th grade. There's the leagues. It had just kind of like started to hit American culture. Never really became mainstream until more recently. How did you get into it?
So a little bit the same, right? I was 7, 8, 9, 10 playing little league soccer or whatever it was, just like everybody else. And then when I got into high school, because I talked about how small my hometown was, like those 4 years of little league soccer made me the most qualified person to coach the town team. So I coached the 7 and 8 year olds when I was in high school.
Nice. And
follow the game like a little bit through the 94 World Cup was a pretty big moment for soccer in America because we had it here and the team did okay. And then when my oldest son was born, babies don't sleep. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, when we'd be up on weekends, the Premier League was on TV. I just like started watching the Premier League and fell in love with it and kind of just developed my love of the game overall throughout that.
You'd never hosted a podcast before, I'm guessing. You had not had your own podcast until this time. And you started a podcast not in 2021 when the season started, but you were starting it well before the team even got to Austin and really got going. What was the impetus of that? How did that start?
So there's a little group of us that kind of had a podcast. I don't even remember the name of it now, but it was basically there's like 8 guys and whoever was going to show up that week was on the show. And we would talk about what was going on in Sweden and the national team. I mean, we were just all over the place, like on everything. And Landon and I were kind of part of that group and finally figured out like, well, really like the unique value we can bring to the market, like is talking about Austin. Like, I don't know the Premier League like anybody else, but like I know Austin FC, the people involved with Austin FC, the chance to talk to the players. And so that was kind of the idea for Landon and I to start doing our own thing and do it on our own, was the fact that we just wanted to talk about on a regular basis just Austin FC. Obviously, before there was a team, we interviewed the architect. We had a whole show on like the grass they selected for the stadium. Like we were fishing for topics. We were reading meeting notes from the neighborhood association that was close to the stadium, and all this stuff. We were once a month originally, and then we didn't get till once a week until the team actually started playing. But we were scraping the bottom for content. But we also knew we wanted to get a bunch of shows under our belt that were bad when nobody except for our family was listening, so that when like the town kind of caught up with what we were doing, we were going to be able to put on a pretty good show.
So tell me about the evolution of that. So you start out in this kind of 8 people throw ideas at a microphone, and now you and Landon have been doing this together for how long?
So we've been doing it since just us since 2019.
Okay. So you were 2 years ahead even then doing this. And what's the evolution of your podcast look like? What have been kind of the highlights? I heard you got to meet the Queen of the Netherlands?
We did get to meet the Queen of the Netherlands. That was definitely a highlight. The team had a partnership with Dutch KLM, and so they had the Queen of the Netherlands come and like do a tour of the stadium. And she's very tall. That's what. And she's actually
there.
She's actually Argentinian by birth. Married the King of the Netherlands. So that was just really interesting. That was one thing that's pretty unique. There's a guy, he's still here, Adrian Healy, legendary, did ESPN for 20 years, did World Cups, did stuff like that. He was like the first TV broadcaster that Austin FC hired to like cover the games locally. And for me, like as a soccer nerd, like calling Adrian Healy my buddy and like having his phone number is like the coolest thing out of the whole deal. It was very niche, right? Not very many people even know who Adrian is, but yeah, that's been like one of the great experiences. And getting to meet Landon Donovan, Taylor Twellman, all these like former national team players that I watched as a kid who are now broadcasters, getting to interact with them has been super, super helpful.
So a lot of the podcasts we do aren't necessarily dated to a certain time, but we are recording this in 2025. So if someone were to listen, what would be your best summary of the first 5 years of Austin FC and kind of where this 5th year stands today? I know we have a new coach this year. The other coach had been there 4 years, and they finally got rid of him last year.
Yeah, I think so. 2021, Austin's an expansion team, just like every expansion team. It's a rough year. I feel like we got spoiled the next year in 2022 because Austin goes to the Western Conference Finals in the second season, and there's just like this expectation, like, oh, this is just the way it's going to be. It has not been that way since, and that's therefore leading to the change in coach. I think it's still a team that's kind of the middle of the pack. The good thing about Major League Soccer is like it's set up in a way to have a lot of parity, so nobody's really, really good and nobody's really, really bad, and almost every team's kind of in this big, messy middle that maybe you'll make the playoffs and go on a run or whatever. Austin's part of that like middle ground, so we get really, really excited after every win. You never get too down after a loss because you never know what's going to happen, the next game. So it's been, I'd say, not amazing since 2022. It's been pretty average, but like there's always hope.
There was quite a bit of money sunk into the players this past year too.
Yes.
And that I looked at as, okay, there's ownership. There's Anthony Precourt, who helped bring a lot of his resources from Columbus, Ohio. but you also have Matthew McConaughey, who's an owner. And I just read, I think a few billionaires have recently invested as partial owners in Austin FC. So it's interesting to kind of watch the evolution of that, but it seems like ownership is going to put some serious money behind the team.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And one of the things that you learn is like you hate when you have a podcast, everybody expects you to make predictions, and then at the end of the year you have to go back and listen to them and realize how wrong you were.
Always.
And so Austin spends $37 million on 3 attacking players over between last July and this offseason. And we're like, oh man, we're going to score like so many goals, and like maybe we're going to lose games 5-4, but it'll be fine. And then Austin's right now on path to barely top the lowest goal output in the history of the league by a single team. So not exactly the season that anybody predicted in terms of how we might get results. But yeah, it's just very, very different now. But it does show that the ownership group is definitely interested in investing in players. And that was one of the things people had a lot of questions about, because compared to other mega billionaire, super rich owners, like Anthony Precourt's not the wealthiest guy in the league, but he's invested in players, invested in the stadium. You know, it's a great experience at the stadium. So I have reason to believe that their heart's in the right place. We just haven't spent the money in a way that's led results in the field in a way that we'd all want it to.
And I guess this year we have the All-Star game coming in for Austin, which I think will have already happened by the time this is recorded. But that's Lionel Messi's coming in. I mean, Messi's going to be here. That's a huge deal for Austin to kind of get that. But I think if I think about the team kind of going forward and where the money's going and what's happening, my question to you is, how do you see Austin FC evolving? Like, I know you don't want to make too many predictions, but in 5 years, what do you think Austin FC in an ideal world looks like for you as a fan?
I think one of the things there's, in addition to bringing a new coach, they brought in a new sporting director last offseason, a guy named Rodolfo Burrell, long history in Spain, Barcelona, Villarreal, lots of places, legendary clubs, but in Manchester United, but he was really like an academy guy. And, you know, in Europe, a lot of like you sign players when they're 7 or 8 years old, and you build them up through your system, and then eventually they contribute to the first team. I think that kind of investment in the academy structure is what we'll see differently from Austin now. Like, okay, Austin's always had an academy. It's kind of been up and down. There's not like a consistent theme. And the good thing about that approach is like you're not having to spend a bunch of money. You're not spending $37 million on 3 players to bring them in from somewhere else because you've had them in your system. So I think that move to investing in youth and youth development and like growing players who are homegrown is going to be the differentiating factor going forward.
Great. So I think Austin FC has a bright future. I think there's a lot to watch for them. But if you think about then on the other side of this, where are the weaknesses for Austin FC? Where do you think maybe you have concerns going forward in the next 5 years?
Well, I think just the structure of Major League Soccer, it's designed for a lot of parity, but also means you don't have a lot of flexibility. So if you pay a guy $12 million and he's not very good, you can't just get rid of him and move on.
Guaranteed contracts?
Yeah, guaranteed. Yes.
Okay.
You can buy out 1 contract per year. Well, maybe it's 2 now, but anyhow, it's a very minimal number of total contracts you can buy out per year, and then you're eating the cost of it. So that's not, if you're Manchester United or City or Liverpool or whoever, and you sign somebody that don't work out, you just go spend $50 million on another guy, right? You know, and that's not something you can do in Major League Soccer. So my concern is that they've created a situation where they've fenced themselves in because of that spending where they don't have the flexibility to do other things.
At least in Austin, Brandon Vasquez is hurt, and they spent a ton of money on him. He was a huge contract. But I'll focus on a different player, Brad Stuver. Everyone focuses on Brad. How can you not? He's been with the team all 5 years. You talk about not scoring very many goals. Well, if you're not going to score very many goals, he's your secret weapon to not let the other team score very many goals. So what has it been like? Kind of, I'm sure you've met and talked to Brad. He's kind of, in a sense, like the spirit animal of Austin FC. He's the guy.
He's the guy. Yeah, he's like he and his wife are just amazing humans. As soon as they got here, they dove into the community. I think the year right when they got here was when we had the winter freeze.
Oh yeah.
In February 2021, right? And they like jumped in and started raising money for the community. They are really heavily involved in this thing called the Laundry Project, which is they go into laundromats and do laundry for people who don't have the means to do it themselves, and they have a lot of volunteers that do that. We got to meet him. We interviewed him first in February of 2021, and it was like we didn't have any credibility with the team. And we're like, okay, well, Brad's not going to start. There's this guy named whose name I've forgotten. It's in Houston now that we thought was going to be the starter. It's like surely they'll let us talk to the backup goalkeeper and interview him on the show. It's like we interviewed Brad, great dude, and then he turns out to be this amazing player. Started almost every game for the last 5 years. But we always remind him, like the first time we talked to him, it's like we thought he was like the least important person on the team, so it would be fine to to talk to him. But so he's good. He's been great to deal with over the years and does a lot of good work in the community, raising money for a lot of great causes.
So before we move on from Austin FC, I just want to allow you to plug Moon Tower Soccer. You guys are on every week. Find you on every podcast channel. YouTube? Like, where can we find you?
Yeah, everywhere you find your podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and it's just at Moon Tower Soccer, moontowersoccer.com. It's been a great run. It's kind of crazy that, people support us in order to be able to like talk about this thing that we would talk about all the time anyhow. Another really cool part is just like meeting other fans or like meeting people who listen and just getting to interact with the community. Like the team is awesome and it's fun. And even when the team's bad, like the community part of it is so incredible. Like the environment that they create in the stands with all the things that are going on and going on bike rides with people and meet people at Hop Squad for whatever. And just all the things around it, I think were a part that I sort of didn't appreciate up front that would be such a part of the Austin FC experience.
You've been doing this for a while too. So is your plan, hey, keep on doing this as long as they go? I mean, I'm sure you go on vacation. How do you balance all that and do this in your life?
Well, my wife's not super excited about Monday nights because that's when we record. And we've developed a little bit of system where we take 3 or 4 weeks off each year. So I'll be off this week.
Okay.
Because we're going on a vacation. But yeah, I think as long as like we're excited about it and it sustains us, we'll keep doing it. And I'm going to watch every game. I'm going to read every article. I'm going to be online chatting with people. Like there's not a lot of extra work to do this show for us. So I think that's, as long as it's fun, we'll keep doing it.
So we talked a little bit about your work life, your humble beginnings in Era, Texas, which I love that you're from Era, Texas, when our show is called Austin Eras.
Perfect.
It's very, very, I didn't even know there was a city named Era.
No, it's a long E. And that's how you would be, it's Era.
Era.
And you would be like identified as an outsider. Usually it was people would come in and like, well, they ask questions about Era at the general store, which is like the only actual like business in town. Like, that person must be from Dallas. We can tell. They don't know how to say.
You saved my Austinite embarrassment. I like
for some crazy reason you were ever there. Longy. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about your leadership in the community and what you've been doing. So I'm going to go back before we jump into what you're doing today.
Okay.
I saw you're a Leadership Austin Essentials grad of 2015. I know you've been involved prior to that, but tell me about the impact of what Leadership Austin had on your view of kind of the Austin community.
Yeah, I think that was a amazing program to go through Essentials. And for somebody that hasn't, it works about like a school year. So it's a 9-month program. Every month you go and you spend a whole day learning about a topic. And so one of the things that was really interesting to me is like you kind of have to learn about things you wouldn't necessarily plug into. Like there's Arts and Culture Day. There's sort of Racial Justice Day. There's, when they do like the economy, workforce things, like that's the stuff I do every day, Yeah. So I would dig into that. But like sort of this forced immersion into Austin, I think was incredible. They do a really good job of facilitating the relationships like among the class through like individual walk and talks and interactions and stuff. So that was really important. And then like that was a really big for me just in terms of like civic development, because at that same point in time, I got super frustrated with like Washington, D.C., and federal policy and all the things that are going on. I'm like, well, I can't make a difference there, but it's pretty easy, really, if you want to take the time and effort to invest in your local community. It's like make a difference in Austin, and in a lot of ways, that's the most important place to make a difference too, right? That's where you live, that's where you work, that's where you spend your time, that's where your family is. So that experience really helped me understand the nature of like how I could dig in and make a difference here in this city. So that was super helpful.
Yeah, so I want to take that to today. Fast forward 10 years, you're now the chair of the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which is such a great group. We know Monica over there as the executive director, and I feel like that's grown on a huge stage in the last decade or so. What has that experience been like as chair, and tell us a little bit more about the Hispanic Chamber?
Yeah, it is a great group. It's like, I am excited about the growth. There was a lot of ups and downs, and like Monica's been awesome to like really root us in the fundamentals and get us like back on the right track, like having a strategic plan and checking in on the strategic plan to make sure that we're doing the things that we said are in the 5-year strategy, and not like what the chair is most excited about. Like this kind of, the things that you need to do to run a successful organization. And, for me, I think it's really evident for the Hispanic Chamber, all the DECA chambers really, like, I feel like they're the voice of small business, because that's like small businesses become big businesses, and that's like sort of the growth of the economy. And so I think it's really important to invest in folks when they're like sort of small and figuring things out and learning. And that's been a great part of it. And then just, frankly, like the growth of the business community in Texas is the growth of the Hispanic business community in Texas, like just because of demographics. I'm very happy to be able to lend whatever skills I have to be able to support that community too.
Yeah. So tell me about like what a year looks like in the Hispanic Chamber. I know there's a few fundraisers and things. What do you look forward to when you're not having to spend all your time leading the board?
I was going to say board meetings, obviously. The hour and a half meeting on revising the bylaws that we had in February, clearly the sexiest thing.
That is a highlight for the podcast.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the events are great. Celebrando's the big event in the fall, which is super fun. There'll be like 700 people there. I'm going to do my best to give my speech in Spanish. We'll see how it goes, or parts of it at least. I'll probably get nervous and revert back to English. That's a good one. Again, it's the people, just like the member meetups and the social events and just like getting to know. We had an open house recently for about 200 people, and I met a guy named Gilbert Martinez, who was like one of the founders of the Hispanic Chamber in 1973 and has been in Austin since he got out of the Korean War in the 50s. And like having the opportunity to like meet the guy and have a conversation with the guy that like started all this, and 52 years later to like be able to continue that legacy. And we're going to go to lunch and kind of learn about like the history of Austin. It's like, I mean, you just can't have that kind of education. That's amazing.
You're lucky he's around to tell that story too, to have that kind of history. So that's one of the boards you're really involved in, but you're also involved United Way, Austin Ed Fund, Leadership Austin. How do those commitments kind of balance between both your personal commitments as well as your business commitments? Where do you kind of choose where you want to serve in the community?
So I think it's kind of those are all tied back to like my personal beliefs and sort of where my raising and stuff. My parents were among the only foster parents in Cook County, Texas. I still had 15,000 people there. And so we had a lot of days where we would go up to the, something had happened to a family, and we would go up to the jail and get a kid that was in a situation where their parents were whatever, and we might have them for a day, we might have them for a week, we might have them for a month while they settled out that family situation. So my mom was the founder of CASA, which is Court-Appointed Special Advocates in Cook County, to help do that. So I think that was always and my dad's great too. I feel like I always tell these stories and they're all about my mom. But it's like growing up around that and understanding like some people need help creating opportunity. That's sort of the thread through my community work. It's like, how do I use like my privilege and skills and talents and leverage the organization's assets to help create opportunity for others? And I think that's really like the through line of all this work, particularly like the United Way work. When you asked about the thing that I was most excited about, like I always start with soccer because I'm super excited about soccer, but I'm also super excited about the work we did to pass the tax rate election in November of last year. Yeah. To put $75 million a year in funding for additional access to early childhood education and out of school time for kids that need it, because that's really like lifting up those in your community that are in the most need. And I'm really excited that the voters of Austin voted to do that. I had a little part to play in like making that happen, and I'm really excited about the potential for that going forward.
So I was doing a little background research. I always like to, before I get people on the show, and your Twitter profile says no to NIMBYs. And I would tell me more about what that means, both here in Austin and just kind of how that impacts your personal beliefs and commitments.
I love that. Thank you for finding that. And it's really like your Twitter profile has to be pretty short, you know? And so like I've had to find ways to keep that phrase in it from among the boards. Yeah, I just think that...
Do you want to define what that means first before?
Oh, sure. Yeah, NIMBY. Yeah, not in my backyard, which... It's just a belief that we shouldn't build things. And it seems to be really, really prevalent in Austin, particularly like among your central Austin, do-gooder, average Democratic voter process where, you just like want to stifle progress. It's like, that was the story of Austin before I got here, right? The reason we don't have east-west thoroughfares is because it's like, if we don't build it, they won't come, which obviously has proved to be a disaster for anybody that drives on these roads. So just that belief in like being set in the ways and like sort of, like I got mine, and therefore like I don't want people who want apartments accessible to transit that are close to me, to do it. Like that particularly bothers me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times like you end in a place because sort of an accident of privilege, right? And like now why are you trying to deny that sort of same opportunity for upward mobility for like future generations?
Yeah, if you appreciate the community, then you should want to make that good for all, not just good for you.
Right. Absolutely.
So I just wanted to make that clear because you see a lot of the NIMBY terminology thrown around in Austin. And I feel like you don't always hear the background of what it is, but in what you're giving back and how you're doing it, there's a lot of focus on education and community and what you do. So I assume there's not a lot of NIMBY people probably on those boards with you.
No, not a lot.
So we're going to go into a lot more of the future very soon. I'm going to first go to a break. So Jeremiah, it's been fantastic hearing about Texas Mutual, Austin Hispanic Business Chamber of Commerce, and your soccer passion. Before we dive into your long-term hopes for the city, kind of like we did just now, we'll pause for a quick word from our sponsor.
In every episode of Austin Eras, we explore the layers of Austin's history, its vibrant present, and its exciting future. Just like our city, your financial journey is a rich tapestry, woven with moments that define you. At Collective Advisors, led by Adam Flagg, Managing Partner, Senior Wealth Advisor, and Certified Financial Planner Professional, your financial story is in skilled hands. We understand that your financial needs are as unique as Austin's skyline. And much like the city's history, innovation is at the heart of what we do. Whether it's investment management, retirement planning, or navigating life's transitions, Adam and his team leverage a collective of dependable professionals to support your financial journey. Their goal is to help you build, maintain, and enjoy financial security. To start crafting your financial legacy with a team that's as dynamic and innovative as Austin itself, visit collectiveadvisors.com or call 512-467-1923.
And we're back. Let's fast forward a bit with Jeremiah Bentley and talk about your vision for the future of Austin and yourself. I think there's a lot of things we can go into, but one of the things I like to do right after the break is what I call the good hang segment. We just added this. This is an opportunity for people to get to know you even a little bit more and maybe some of the cultural touchstones and things that are important to you. So first question for you is, what's your favorite under the radar spot to take guests if they're coming from outside Austin? Maybe they're coming from Era.
There you go. You got it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. They're coming from Era to visit Austin. What does it look like for you?
Well, so much just having the boys over the last 16 years has been like kid related stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So like the Austin Nature Center, I feel like they're on town. Like it's like a super underrated place to go. That's like cheap, easy to get in and out of, spend some time. Like Bull Creek Park and like some of the like Northwest Austin, like the little trails and creeks and stuff like that are like great places to take a walk, like to go fishing, to do things like to get outdoors activities that aren't quite as busy as like town lakes. So it's those like outdoor spots that are Austin-y, because I feel like everybody comes to Austin wanting some like green outdoorsy kind of stuff, but maybe they aren't quite as like busy and more off the beaten path than other spots. It's kind of what I like to do.
I heard you have a Friday tradition for food. Where do you like to go?
Yeah, my family, we talked about commitments to the community. So my family and I, every single Friday, go to Hardin Corona, which is a Tex-Mex place at Anderson Mill and 183. We've gone to them for like 3 locations, but it's every Friday night. Go there, have enchiladas, have some margaritas. Now you can get margaritas to come back home and like watch a movie, and that's just that's a thing that we always do. You know, no matter what's going on, it's like Friday night. Even if I do something later on Friday night, it's like 6 to 8 is like sacred, like family time.
So what's a weird or quirky Austin tradition you hope never fades? What's something you've been here for a long time? What is it that you've seen that's persisted?
The Cap 10K.
Okay.
And, you know, not just that we have a race, but that we have a race that so many people come for. My sister has come a couple times and like we've run together, and we're close in that we like each other a lot. We don't spend a lot of time together. And it's like having her come down, the fact that people dress up in costumes. I hope people never stop dressing up in costumes around that race. The fact that there's people handing out donuts and beer at the top of the hill. Somebody tried to give me a fireball shot last year. They used to hand out cigarettes. We don't do that anymore, That's good. But yeah, just that whole, it's just like, and there's bands, there's like 27 bands or something get played throughout, but I just feel like that's a microcosm of like the fun, quirky part of Austin that you sometimes lose in sort of all the other things that are going on.
Yeah, I definitely feel like Austin's become more corporate at times, but there's still those little pockets. That's a good one. Tell me about, on Austin FC, with your expertise in having followed the team for as long, what's a good soccer-inspired spot in town to grab a drink before, after a match? Like, where are we going to find you?
So you find me before most matches at Turnstile Coffee, Beer, and Burgers, which is on Burnett Road. 1, their burgers are incredible, and everybody should eat there on non-game days. 2, it's where there's a group called the Fighting Leslies, which are not a supporters group. They're the Fighting Leslies Drinking Club officially, but it's a group of Austin FC fans, all Austin natives, so honoring Leslie Cochran.
Yeah.
Their like logo is Leslie, like with his dukes up, wanting to punch somebody in like an Austin FC top and like a kilt, right? You know, so it's kind of a combination of those. That group is always there, but I think it's like a really great spot to hang out with a lot of cool people from around Austin that you won't necessarily always see otherwise. That was great. And then I think if you're going to watch like a national team game, like Haymaker on Manor Road is just the place to go, and it's probably like the original soccer bar in Austin, and still has like a ton of folks that go. So that's where we end up going like for national team games.
Love it. So another question I have, which might be hard to answer, but what's the dumbest thing you've ever done that somehow worked out perfectly for you?
The dumbest thing I've ever done that somehow worked out perfectly for me. I love the question.
It's kind of an interesting one, but I feel like Austin sometimes has that magic of like taking something that you had no idea was going to go somewhere, and it does.
I don't have a good answer for that one. I could think of a work one, which is insane, but it's like the most successful YouTube series we ever had, which has like hundreds of thousands of views. Our medical director came to me and said, we should make some videos about me like diagnosing workplace injuries. And I'm like, that's the most boring thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
like
that sounds terrible.
nobody's going to watch that. But I was like, okay, whatever, I want to keep you happy. And so we made these like series of 3-minute videos. And like I said, we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views on these videos because like nobody else was doing it. So that was something like sometimes you have to, think that your own impressions are probably not right. And, just be humble about what will work or not work.
So you've been in Austin since 92 again. You've been here a long time. You said when you first moved here, there was kind of an indie kind of music scene. What album or artist reminds you of your time in Austin, maybe back then and maybe today?
I'd say back then, definitely the Reverend Horton Heat.
Yes.
Big, that whole, there's a big like rockabilly, psychobilly, whatever you call it, like them, the Super Suckers, Killbilly. There are all these bands that don't exist anymore. Well, some of them do, I guess, but like not all of them. It's like that is what I think about Austin, like of that time for sure. And then, now it's a little bit different. I think you have to think about Gary Clark Jr. if you're going to think about like somebody
for sure
that's like both a musical icon and like a great leader of the community. And then, during the pandemic, I loved all the stuff that Jackie Venson did. So I kind of picked up on her like live stream concerts when we were all in the house and we wanted music to listen to, but I've continued to follow her too. So I think there's still like the independent music spirit. I think the difference, like we talked about, sort of the city spreading out is it's not as much like go down 6th Street and see whatever random band happens to be there. I feel like you have to seek it out a little bit more because it can be anywhere.
I wish I knew of all the little community spots throughout the city that are like that, but I feel like it's still somewhat centralized in certain areas. Like we've taken it from downtown, moved it more east. We've got Hotspot up in Cedar Park. You've got some other little venues around town, but I still kind of wonder. We need more neighborhood music spots.
We do.
But,
we do. And I love a good festival too. I guess this is what now. My 16-year-old is like really into the festival guy. We're kind of like, I want to see you for an hour, play the hits, and like go on to the next thing. Like it's a great way to like check off artists that you want to see.
ACL, obviously.
ACL, yeah.
What else have you done festival-wise?
We did ACL. We did the Two-Step In Georgetown, which is like we're big kind of roots, Americana, alt country kind of fans. There are a lot of those bands up there. We just went to Dallas and saw Willie Nelson a couple weeks ago because he's like, Daddy, I want to see Willie Nelson before he dies. And I'm like, what are you doing Thursday? Or whatever. Like we got to get to it. Willie was great. He's, he doesn't have the energy he used to have. His son, Lucas, and another guy named Waylon Payne, like sort of, they all three of them sat and Willie sang and Lucas did a lot of the guitar parts, but it was still like a defining experience, like for my kid who's never seen him before.
And Willie's good. Like he surrounds himself with other people. Who else played up there?
So it's Willie. It's Bob Dylan, which I would not recommend.
Okay. Hold on. You can't say that in 2025 with Bob Dylan, top of mind movie and all that. Like, why do you say that?
I don't. Well, just as soon as he started singing it, I'm like, I don't know what he's saying. Just like, he's got this reputation as like kind of a mumbler when he does a show, and like, I don't know. I didn't quite. It's real. I didn't quite get it. I think he played it all along the Watchtower. I'm not sure. He's also kind of like an artist, so he's not going to play the hits for an hour and go. But the Avett Brothers were on before him. Avett Brothers, incredible.
Yeah. No, I actually in college I was a music booker and we booked Bob Dylan, and he played an arena that we had up there, and he hid from everyone. He wore beanie hats. He didn't interact with anyone. So I think your impression is right.
Yeah, he didn't have the big screens that you have when you can see the people when you're like in the back. Like those were off. Like he didn't want to have those on. So yeah, it was. He's
like a non-entertainer. Yeah, in some ways. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you've done some fun festivals. I'm glad you're doing stuff with your kids. That's really great. How old are your sons now?
16 and 14.
Okay, so they're both teenagers. You got one that's playing football, and I heard he's huge.
He is huge. He is 6'2" and 305. So he's also a lot to feed, and that's why sometimes we buy Lexus Club tickets because like we pay more for the ticket, but the food's included, and we can save money on the total concession bill if we do it that way.
That's crazy. Okay, so let's go. If someone gave you $500 to spend on a night out in Austin, where are we going? What are you doing?
$500 to spend on a night out in Austin.
Anything. Entertainment, food, drink, whatever you can imagine. What's a dream for you?
A dream for me. Okay. It would be finding one of these places that has like an indie bar that has like a show somewhere with some something kind of new. That would definitely be a part of it. I don't have like really expensive food taste. Like we could have a burger somewhere, and that would probably be okay. And I would buy myself a new pair of boots because my boots are pretty ancient, and I feel like I could probably get a show, some food, and a pair of Tacovas, all for $500.
All right, I like that. Tacova, yeah, you can definitely hit that. So. You're wearing an burnt orange shirt, beautiful UT colors. Tell me a little bit about your passion for UT. I heard you have more than maybe a regular level of fandom for them.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time there. Although, as mentioned, I graduated from UT Arlington because I was a junior, and the dean of the computer science department told me I was wasting her time and mine, majoring in computer science at the University of Texas. And I was like, that's terrible. And it's true. So I should probably go somewhere else. But grew up a fan. My parents have had season tickets for a long time. And so when our boys were really little, we bought, I think this was an idea that I had that my wife went along with because she thought I would never, this is probably my stupidest thing that worked out. She never thought I'd be crazy enough to follow through. I was like, I want a bus. I want like a tailgate bus. And she's like, sure, if you can find one. And I found a family in Bastrop that had a bus that was like a 1985 Ford short bus, like the 12-passenger bus that had been gutted and turned into an RV. I bought it. Never forget the look on my wife's face when I drove it up to the house. And because it was kind of a mess too. We restored it, painted it burnt orange, put the big horns on the front. And for several years, we like had this big regular family tailgate, which again, it's just as much about UT as it was like the experience of having mom and dad together and the neighbors come, and my cousins come and stuff like that, and just hang out. And, half the time, most of the people didn't even go to the game. We just had that community sense, and they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. They built a parking garage on top of that lot. So we don't have it now, but we check out the tailgate scene around LBJ Lawn, and you see all the people who do all the things. So like still go down early, do that, have a good time, still make it a family experience.
Love that. And tailgating is kind of a big business now. I mean, I feel like you go down there, there's these paid tents, there's this, there's that. But it is, when UT is good at football, it is on. It is lights out. And it feels like it wanes and waxes, but Arch Manning is quarterback coming in this fall. I mean, it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be crazy. And that's like having a kid who plays now. He's like understands like the offensive line, because he's an offensive lineman, obviously, with his size, like in a different way. And so it's fun to like see his eyes light up and him explain like, oh, this guy's pulling and doing this or whatever. It's just a whole different way to watch a game. And it's a great like family bonding experience. So really looking forward to this season. Really enjoyed last season, even though, Texas, they made it all the way to the semifinals, and we were in Arlington, like at that game. So like it's a really great thing to be able to do, and a great way to bring the community together. And one of the criticisms you hear about UT that Austin FC fits is like, well, what if you went to Tech, or what if you're not from here? You don't necessarily have that kind of connection. So that's one thing I love about the soccer team, is it allows community connection in a different way.
One last question on the kind of good hang segment, which is, I know you're super in Austin FC, know soccer well, you've been following it for a while. If you could bring one other major league sports team here, what would it be?
I grew up a huge baseball fan, and I think like baseball is a fun sport to check out. I mean, I like watch more NFL than I do baseball, but like, we got the Cowboys, we got the Texans. I don't think we need another NFL team, but like, and baseball is such a great in-person game, as opposed like it's way better to go sit in the stands. I took my dad to a Rangers game a few weeks ago. Go sit in the stands, have some hot dogs, have a beer, watch it all. It's kind of what they call it, baseball's a talking sport. You can kind of, you don't really have to pay that much attention to it, right? You can kind of talk to people and pay attention when the things are happening, but I think this would be a good region for a baseball team. I know there's efforts to make that happen. If you could pick any spot for that stadium, where would you say in town you want to put it? Do I have like any spot in town? Well, you can't pick Zilker, because I was going to say, right? We tried to do that. Yeah. They got shot. It was a terrible thing. So yeah, I mean, I would love it to be somewhere downtown, but I think it would have to be like sort of near in East Austin somewhere, like just on the other side of the river. But I think that central location is super cool. I don't know if you've been to Nashville, but I always think about how they managed to build that Bridgestone Arena where the hockey team plays. How do you build that right across from Broadway? And like, why didn't we, when all of Western downtown was like parking lots and undervalued 30 years ago, like would have been cool to build an arena or a stadium or something there then. It's not viable now. Too honestly. Late. Yeah, it's too late now. Huh. Okay, I like it. So if we had I'm going to keep quizzing you. If we had an Austin team, what would the team name be? Well, I remember, this is like way back, but years and years ago, before there was a Round Rock Express, Ray Benson wanted to bring a minor league team to Austin and to play at where Palmer Auditorium is now, and they were called the Austin Swing. Okay. Because like the swing music tradition, and then the baseball play on words and stuff. And at one point, it had like an Austin Swing cap because they actually made merch, and then I don't know, like the tax deal to make the incentives happen didn't happen or whatever. But like that'd be a pretty cool homage to like somewhat of a history we had in Austin of a wannabe baseball team. I love that. I love it. Yeah, I mean, Round Rock, there's a reason why it's the Express. You got Nolan Ryan and you got the Trains. So, yeah, Austin would need their own unique. I've heard, what have I heard? The Austin Bats is another one I've seen thrown out. That might seem too generic to me. I feel like it needs something a little bit more. Yeah, I think so. And then, like, what is ACC's the River Bats already, right? Yeah. So we don't want to compete with that. No, not at all. So I guess we'll keep watching, but maybe that's a real possibility in the next 5 years. I've heard 2028, 2029, maybe Austin will be considered. So you may get your wish.
I want to talk a little bit about the future of Austin in your eyes. So being part of the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber, Texas Mutual, playing a role in Hispanic business leadership, where do you see Austin as well as the state of Texas kind of changing more in the next decade? What are we going to see?
I mean, I think we talked a little bit about the demographic trends. So I think we'll see that to continue. I think in Austin, one of the things I appreciate about Austin is just like we sort of vote our values, like when we talked about the tax rate election, some other things, bonds that we've passed to support like community and stuff, like we'll continue to do that. I think for Texas, I think we'll continue to see growth and diversification, right? At one point in our advertising this way, it was oil wells and cowboys and, cattle and stuff like that. And now we have space, we have advanced manufacturing. There's a lot of going on in Texas, and hopefully we do that while also keeping our spirit of community, right? There's this Texas pulled together, and you can see this in the flood stuff, right? Where, not only people pouring money in, but volunteers coming and things like that. And I hope we never lose that congenial sense that we all have, as Texans, and being welcoming of new Texans that want to come in here and move in. I hope we keep that. I think we will for the future.
I sure hope so. I definitely think so. We each have you and you and your wife, my family. We each have 16-year-olds and 14-year-olds. So we have teenagers. They're in the throes of high school, doing everything here, looking to the future. At some point, maybe you don't have a reason anchoring you to Northwest Austin or Austin in general. What is it about Austin, having been here as long as you have, that's going to keep you here through the rest of your career and into retirement? What is going to continue to be the draw, and what do they have to do? What's the city have to continue to evolve to be?
I think it's just the spirit of the things that make Austin interesting and different and weird, and it's things like the Cap 10K and the barbecue and the music and the political environment, and things like that. And how do you keep Austin from just becoming another city? I travel around Texas a lot, and you're especially in a car, and you're like, oh, well, now here's the Chili's and the Home Depot on the edge of town. And then you kind of get to, there's not a lot of soul or not a lot of vibe in a lot of cities. And I think we have that, and we need to keep that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge point. If you had to go back to your time, both before or even now that you've been in Austin, if you could go to lunch or meet one Austinite, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Does Willie count? I mean, it has to be Willie. If it's different,
yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
What would you talk to him about?
Yeah, I mean, he's his career, and he's been through so much, and come out of it successful. And I think it would be, he had his whole time when the IRS took all his money, and he's got this random golf course, and I wonder what all is in his head, and what he's seen over time and the way Austin's grown and changed.
It's been an honor having you here, Jeremiah. I have one last question for you, which is, what do you want your legacy to be in Austin? What do you want to do next in the community? Where do you want to go? What do you want to have an impact on?
I think at this point, it's really just on the legacy being the future of Austin and future generations of Austinites. And I'm on the sort of implementation task force for this tax rate election. So how do we help, these kids grow up in an environment that leads them to be successful? And so I find a lot more time, not giving back financially, but talking to people, giving young people advice, things like that. I want to leave sort of Austin for future generations that are better. And luckily I have a son that's weirdly interested in the same stuff too. So I drag him to board and commission meetings and chamber meetings and stuff like that. So it's leaving sort of the spirit of civic engagement and involvement in a place where you live, I think is really important. And that's what we can all work more on. And that's what I hope to leave behind.
Jeremiah, thanks for being a part of the Austin Eras podcast, or today we'll call it the Austin Eras podcast. For those listening, you can follow his work with Texas Mutual, the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Moon Tower Soccer. We hope you find Jeremiah on social media and give it a listen and stay connected to Austin's community heartbeat. That's what we're calling you today. Jeremiah Bentley, very distinct and important part of both the culture and community here in Austin FC. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Austin Eras, featuring Adam Flagg, is brought to you by Collective Advisors. Collective Advisors offers investment advisory services through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on Austin Eras are not affiliates of CWM LLC, and opinions expressed by guests may not reflect those of CWM LLC. This show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes and is not intended to provide specific legal, tax, or other professional advice. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a qualified professional.